Solel as we have our first Shabbat before Passover this Saturday night.
Mm-hmm.
Getting excited, making those matzah balls.
Yes, I am so excited. I am having dreams about matzah and matzah crumbs all over my house. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so let's begin as we always do by lighting our Shabbat candles and saying the bracha. So if you have candles at home, you can do that with us or just say the blessing as we light the candles. Echad, Shtayim, Shalosh, Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech HaOlam, Asher Kiddushanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu lahadlik ner shel Shabbat.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat.
Shabbat Shalom, everybody.
Shalom.
So before we have our wonderful story from the rabbi, maybe we've got to get our vocal cords warmed up for Pesach and all those wonderful songs we're going to be singing Saturday night. So Ron, Can you lead us in a couple of Passover songs?
Yeah, we've touched on a few things about Passover. We haven't talked much about Elijah or the blessing that we sing, the Eliyahu Hanavi. So there's a version that we do some years with the kids. Whether you're a kid or adult, I'm sure you'll like this one. Eliyahu Hanavi, Eliyahu Hatishbi, Eliyahu Hagilanti. Eliyahu Hanavi, Eliyahu Hatishbi, Eliyahu Hagilati. B'nheira Yameinu, Yahavo Eleinu. B'nheira Yameinu, Yahavo Eleinu. Hey Mashiach ben David, ben David, Mashiach ben David, ben David. Eliyahu Hanavi, Eliyahu Hatishbi, Eliyahu Hagiladi. Eliyahu Hanavi, Eliyahu Hatishbi, Eliyahu Hagiladi. B'nheira Yameinu, Yavod Eleinu. B'nheira Yameinu, Yavod Eleinu. Hey Mashiach ben David, ben David. Mashiach ben David, ben David. Eliyahu Hanavi, Eliyahu Hatishbi, Eliyahu Hagiladi. Eliyahu Hanavi, Eliyahu Hatishbi, Eliyahu Hagiladi. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Happy Passover, almost Passover.
That's lovely. And we know that all the children will be letting Eliyahu Hanavi, Elijah the prophet, in as they open the doors Saturday evening. And when we do Havdalah, we also welcome Elijah the prophet as a symbol of that time, that Messianic era when perhaps the whole world will be at peace. So Rabbi, do you want to do your story before we do the next couple of songs?
Sure, I have a great story I want to share tonight. And this is a story about the mouse in the matzah factory. So, I bet you didn't know that mice know how to make matzah. Once, there was a little mouse who lived in a wheat field in the country. One day men came, they built a fence around the wheat field, and every day they watched over the growing wheat. They watered the field, they pulled the weeds, they waited for the wheat to ripen. And the little mouse watched too. The little mouse wondered what was so special about this wheat. When the wheat was ripe, the men cut it down. They worked very carefully, making sure to keep the wheat dry. And then they tied it in bundles and loaded it into a wagon, and the little mouse decided to follow the wheat. And soon, the wagon arrived at the mill. The little mouse poked around until he found a hole in the bottom of the door and crept inside, and there he saw that huge grinding wheels were crushing the wheat into fine flour. The millers carefully poured the flour into sacks and loaded them onto a truck. And then the little mouse jumped aboard the truck and hid among the sacks, wondering where the truck would take them. They drove for a very long time. They left the country with the open fields, and they came to the city, and there the little mouse peeked out. In the city, he saw very tall buildings. He saw crowds of people. He heard the noise of cars and trucks on the street. And at last, the truck stopped in front of an old building, and workers came to unload the sacks of flour. Quickly and quietly, the little mouse jumped down and followed. An inspector stood at the door, checking to see that each sack of flour was dry and tightly closed. Well, the little mouse was afraid he might be discovered, so he climbed up to a window ledge and squeezed through a crack and hid behind the clock. There he saw a large room filled with many people. They were all very busy. In one area, the workers were unloading the sacks of flour. In another place, they were bringing the buckets of water. And in the middle, there was a man with a mixing bowl. When the mixing man called out, the flour man scooped a cup of flour from the sack, reached through the little window, and dumped the flour into the bowl. When the mixing man called out again, the waterman filled his pitcher with water, passed it through his window, and poured the water into the bowl. And the mixing man was working very quickly, mixing the flour and the water into a lump of dough. The little mouse watched carefully. He wondered what was so special about this dough. The mixing man brought the dough to another area. Many people were standing at a long table, and he gave a piece of dough to each person, and they quickly rolled their dough into circles. And the circles were then passed to another table. And on this other table, there were special rollers. And the people poked holes in them with a special tool and lined up the circles on a rack near the brick oven. And there the baker slid the circles into the oven, and minutes later, very quickly, they were crisp and brown. A delicious smell filled the room as he took them out of the oven and placed them on a rolling cart. And then all of a sudden, a bell rang. And the people began to clean their work areas, and they scrubbed the tables, and they sanded down the rolling pins, and they washed and dried the bowls. And when they were finished, the mixing man reset the clock and called out, "More flour, more water." The little mouse could not resist the smell, so he followed the cart into a room where people were packing the baked circles into boxes and tying them with bits of string. And people were standing in line to buy the boxes. The mouse hopped onto the counter to take a look. He could see all the people waiting outside. And this is what he read on the box: golden matzah. This matzah is made of wheat, which has been watched from the time of harvest through the time of baking. That's right, thought the little mouse. I watched this matzah. I watched it from the time the wheat began to grow in my wheat field. I watched it being harvested. I watched it being ground into flour. I watched it being mixed into dough, and I watched it being mixed into matzah. The little mouse felt very important. He decided it was time for him to return to the country because soon more wheat would be planted, and he wanted to be home in time to watch it again. And that's the story of the mouse in the matzah factory. And now you know how mice can make matzah.
That is a great story. And I like the round matzah, the shmur matzah. We don't usually get that when we go to our supermarket, but when it's made by hand, it is round, just like that. And I just wonder if that mouse wouldn't have wanted a little bit of a taste.
I bet the mouse would have liked a little bit of a taste. And actually, you can try this at home if you want to. You just have to work very quickly. You have 18 minutes from the time you mix the water with the flour until you have to get it in the oven.
That's working quickly. You roll the pin very quickly. That's great. So maybe we can have another song before we do our announcements and our happy birthday.
Sure.
So Ron, second song, please.
Yeah, of course. Passover comes with lots of fun ones we sing. Dinu, probably one of the greatest of all time. So I think let's do it. Maybe we'll go through it twice, and we'll progressively get faster as we go, and we'll see of all of you who can keep up the longest. All right, slow. Sorry, gotta start slow. Dinu, 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 Dinu. Dinu, Dinu. All right, let's try it. Ilu hotzi anu mi mitzrayim hotzi anu mi mitzrayim Dinu, 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 Dinu. All right, level 2, a little bit faster. Natan lanu at Torah, Natan lanu at Torah, Dinu, 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 Dinu. Let's try this. Natan lanu at Shabbat, Natan lanu at Shabbat, Dinu, 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 Dinu. All right, so this is the second level. Now it gets hard. If you're still with us, good job. If you're not, turn it back on, come back in. You can do it. Higher. Hotzi anu mi mitzrayim, hotzi anu mi mitzrayim, Dinu, 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 yeah, Dinu, Dinu, Dinu. Natan lanu at Torah, Natan lanu at Torah, Dinu, Dinu, Dinu. Dinu, 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 Dinu. Last one. Natan lanu at Shabbat, Natan lanu at Shabbat, Dinu, 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 Dinu. Wow. If you stayed along, good job. Well done.
Dinu, if you could sing that fast.
Or that high.
All right, we'll give your voice a rest before we do our birthday song and our final song. And Rabbi, are there any announcements we can give our families tonight?
Well, it's just about Pesach. So Saturday night is first Seder. Sunday morning at 10 a.m. is going to be our first morning of Passover service, first morning of Pesach service. We invite you to join us for that on our live stream. We have all of our regular chanters. It's going to be a very wonderful way to welcome and start Pesach. And Sunday evening at 6 p.m. is our community Seder. That's going to be on Zoom this year. And you should have had information about that. But if you need more, please call the office or check on your shamas. And then throughout the week, it's Pesach, culminating the end of the week in seventh day Pesach services in Yizkor, a week from this Friday and Saturday. And then Saturday night, Havdalah.
Yes.
Yay!
Yay. So lots of chances for us to be together, for us to sing and enjoy and be so proud of who we are as Jews. So I'm sure somebody has had a birthday this past week. I don't know who, but to all of you out there who have celebrated a birthday, Ron, Beit Sefer Solel, Yom Holedet Sameach.
Yom Huledek Sameach.
Woo!
Alright, Arlene won that one. Yom Huledek Sameach. Yom Huledek Sameach. Yom Huledek Sameach.
Great. All right, that's wonderful, and a happy birthday to everybody who's had a birthday this week. And Ron, one last Pesach song. We'll have one more session next Friday night. It'll just be towards the end of Pesach, but your choice. What song would you like to end off with?
One of my favorites. Every Passover, we get to do it a few times. Let's talk good about Pharaoh. Oh, Pharaoh, Pharaoh, oh, baby, let my people go. Yeah, 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 oh, I said, Pharaoh, Pharaoh, oh, baby, let my people go. Well, me and my people going to the Red Sea with Pharaoh's army coming after me. I took my staff, I put it in the sand, and all of God's people walked onto dry land. Oh, I said, Pharaoh, Pharaoh, oh, baby, let my people go. Yeah, 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 oh, I said, Pharaoh, Pharaoh, said, oh, baby, let my people go. A burning bush told me just the other day that I should go to Egypt and say, it's time to let my people be free. So listen to God if you won't listen to me. Oh, I said, Pharaoh, Pharaoh, said, whoa, baby, let my people go. Oh, I said, Pharaoh, Pharaoh, whoa, baby, let my people go. Oh, well, Pharaoh's army was a-comin' too. And what did you think that God did do? Had me take my staff, had me clear my throat. And when all of Pharaoh's army did the dead man's flow, Pharaoh, Pharaoh, said, whoa, baby, let my people go. Yeah, 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 oh, I said, Pharaoh, Pharaoh, said, whoa, baby, let my people go. Well, that's the story of the stubborn goat. And Pharaoh should have known that chariots don't float. The lesson is simple, it's easy to find. When God says go, you had better mind. Oh, I said, Pharaoh, Pharaoh, said, whoa, baby, let my people go. Oh, I said, Pharaoh, Pharaoh, oh, baby, let my people go. Say, yeah, 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 oh, I said, Pharaoh, Pharaoh, said, whoa, baby, let my people go. Yeah, 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 oh, I said, Pharaoh, Pharaoh, whoa, baby, let my people go.
Woo! Well, we wish
Awesome.
you Shabbat Shalom, Chag Sameach. I hope your Pesach is good. I hope you have lots of good special Pesach treats and not too much matzah.
Right, and I hope our little watchful mouse stays out in the country and doesn't visit us in the city.
Yes, if you give a mouse a matzah, you have to give him charoset to follow.
All right, Chag Pesach Sameach, Shabbat Shalom, everybody. Thank you, Rabbi Ron. See you same time, same session next week, and of course, all the services and Havdalah on the first Saturday in April. Take care. Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.